So is all of this just an effort by the administration to actually pass something just for the sake of passing something? And joining me from Minneapolis is the governor of the great state of Minnesota, Tim Pawlenty. Governor, welcome back.
Good to be with you, Sean.
All right, so as you examine the jobs bill, you see the AP is not part of the right-wing conspiracy. Is this so-called jobs bill? I think the figure they're tossing around is $80 billion. Is it going to create jobs?
Well, you don't have to take it from me or you. You can take it from the AP. They did a thorough analysis of it with the experts quoted in the article and concluded it's not going to make much difference. I think the more important thing here is you have a president of the United States that now a year into his presidency has finally figured out that he better pay some attention to jobs instead of horsing around with the health care bill, which was misguided and off in a different direction and poorly done. And so I just would say to him, welcome on board, Captain Obvious. He should have been on this 12 months ago. And, of course, he's finally waking up because the country's dragging him to it. He should have been leading on it. Well,
if you read deeper into the piece, it actually says the following here. Even the administration acknowledges. Now, we're going to spend $80 billion on top of the TARP, on top of the stimulus, on top of the omnibus, on top of the earmarks, because it all begins to become cumulative at some point here. But it says the administration acknowledges that a tax cut for businesses that hire unemployed workers would only work on the margins. So my question is, if you're acknowledging that up front, that it's not going to be successful, why would you pursue that? I'm trying to understand the logic there.
Yeah, well, I don't think they believe in the theory that would actually work, and that is broad-based tax cuts. One of the fastest ways, for example, to put money in the pockets of companies, particularly small and medium-sized companies, as well as taxpayers, is just cut the payroll tax for employers and employees across the board immediately. They could flip the switch on it and have the money flowing quickly. That would provide tax relief. It would help businesses. It would help employees. That's the kind of reform we really need. But, Sean, they don't believe in that. They believe in a government that's going to grow. They put some window dressing in the forms of this jobs bill. And then, astonishingly, before the ink is even dry on the bill, Harry Reid announced later today they're not even doing that because the left thought it went too far and they're going to have a smaller bill. So they started out with small ball. Now they got tiny ball.
Yeah. Did you notice that in the piece, the so-called nonpartisan CBO actually concluded that reducing Social Security taxes for companies that add workers would be the most efficient way for the government to create jobs? Not something that's ever really discussed. Would that be something you'd support?
Well, they're at least talking about jobs, so we'll give them that general credit. But again, broad-based tax cuts are better. They want to cut the payroll tax. That's a good thing. But most economists, most experts would say providing a subsidy or tax credit for hiring people by the particular job is not a very good way to go about it. We should be extending the Bush tax cuts. We should be cutting capital gains. We should be cutting marginal income tax rates. We should be cutting the employer and employee tax on the payroll tax. Those are the kinds of things that would send the signal to the business community in this country that we're headed in a pro-jobs, pro-growth direction, and this administration's going the other way.
How much problems does the president have with his own left-wing base, his pretty radical left-wing base? He made the statement that he doesn't begrudge the bonuses, for example, $17 million for the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, $9 million for the Goldman Sachs CEO. He doesn't begrudge it. Now, this is a guy who once said, there'll be a time for profits, but that time is not now. How is it that he has to reach out to the left, or do you think it's that he really believes that profits almost are an evil word?
Well, this is a president and a Congress that has nationalized a very large portion of our economy. One of the things we're going to have to do in the future is denationalize. I think if he were left with his own devices, he'd probably regulate salaries. So I just don't think they believe what we believe. And, Sean, on this issue of the economy and President Obama's approach to it, he has got to come to the conclusion that private sector is a good thing, not a bad thing. The people who can grow jobs in this country are the people who have actually done it. They aren't in the White House. They're not in Congress. They're not in the state legislature.
How bad do you think the economy is, and what do you see for the next 2 years?
Here's what I see. You can't pump this much money into the economy with monetary policy, stimulus, TARP, bailout, all the things the Fed did, all the things the Treasury did, and not have some near-term stabilizing and maybe even positive effects just because of the infusion of money into the economy. But Katie barred the door in 11 and 12 when that private sector doesn't pick up the slack and you see the return of inflation and this much debt being out of control.
Thanks, Governor. Appreciate you being with us.